This is Michael from Hustle Sheets, and today I want to show you how to build a Facebook ads dashboard inside of Google Sheets step by step in about 10 steps like this. And I'll basically show you guys how to do it, but if you guys don't want to build it yourself, there's going to be a link to download this exact template in the description, and it'll show you guys how to do a little bit of extra things. So take a look at that, but if you want to learn how to build this yourself, just follow along with this, okay? So first I want to show you how the dashboard works. It basically has a start date, end date here, where you can select the date that you want to see the data in. And then the first section is going to be a monthly breakdown. What this is going to do is it's going to break out all of your entire Facebook ads data into months. So it's going to have these main metrics over here. And keep in mind that you can basically use whatever metrics you want, but I'm just going to use kind of like the main e-commerce metrics, okay? So it's going to have your spend, impressions, click-through rate, clicks, cost per click, purchases, cost per purchase, revenue, and ROAS. It's going to break it out by month like this. And it's going to have a color scale where it shows the darkest red will be the lowest color. So you can just look at it quickly. And the darkest green will be the highest colors. Okay, so you can just kind of quickly spot check what months need to be looked at. This is going to have a Sparkline, which is basically a mini graph of how the data is trending. This is going to be an average of all 12 months or whatever date range you select. And then this is going to be a total, so it shows you your total. And then here will just be a chart of, I just chose 3 metrics here. Again, you can choose whatever you want, but I chose spend, revenue, and ROAS just so you can see how they're trending and how they relate to each other. Down here is going to have a top campaign section, where it's going to break out all of your campaigns, separate campaigns. It'll show the revenue, the purchases, the spend, the clicks. This will be a chart showing all of your revenue so you can visually see which ones are doing the best. And down here, we're going to have a campaign breakdown. It's basically going to be exactly the same as this, except that you can toggle through and choose whatever campaign, and then it's going to update based on whichever campaign you choose. Now, it's not updating now because I didn't go through and actually connect it, but I'm just going to do it in this video and show you guys how it works, okay? And then this is just a chart of your specific one campaign. So in this case, it'd be campaign number 4 and how these 3 metrics are doing. And then here is the logo to my website if you guys are interested. All right, cool. So the data comes from this Facebook tab called Facebook data, right? So I want to show you guys first how to export the data outside of your ads manager, and then how to paste it inside of your Google Sheets. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to go to your ads manager, and then you want to go to your campaigns over here. And then over here where it says columns, you're going to choose a customized column over here, okay? And then to follow along with this exact report, we're just going to choose these columns, okay? Now these aren't the exact names of the columns, but I have them over here. So let me show them to you guys. Okay. So these are basically going to be the columns that we want. And I will paste it in here. Okay, so we basically just want these columns. So it's going to be 8 columns. 7 columns: reporting start date, reporting end date, campaign name, amount spent, impressions, link clicks, and purchases. Actually, we need one more. We need the revenue, which I think is going to be called purchases conversion value. Okay, so you're going to go to your Facebook ads. You can delete all this if you want. This just has a bunch of random columns. Let's keep amount spent since I saw it. Okay, so the first column we want, okay, is going to be the campaign name. So that's a default. It's going to automatically come there. And then I think date comes with it as well. Okay, so let's go with amount spent. Let's go with impressions. Let's go with link clicks. Let's go with purchases. So let's do a total purchase. And then let's do value. Okay, so I think it's going to be purchases. Okay, and then click on value, okay? So now Facebook kind of breaks it out by website purchases and on Facebook purchase, because you can basically purchase on Facebook now. Just hit apply. So this is what we're going to work with. And the reason why we don't do things like CTR, cost per click, ROAS on here is because if I were to choose ROAS here, and then it comes out. It's basically just going to be an average of each day. It's not going to be the true ROAS. So we need to build those calculations ourselves inside the spreadsheet, and I'll show you guys how. Okay, so just hit apply after you have all of your columns, and then go to breakdown, and then go to by time and go to day. And then under so when you go to customize columns, it's good to save this as a preset. Okay, so save this as like test 2 or test 1, whatever, so you can always go back to and have that same report and have all the columns selected already. So hit apply, and then break it down by time and day, and then go to reports. It's best to probably do it for, whoops, I clicked on ads here, so go back to campaigns. Okay, so it's best to do it for as much data as you have. So let's say for an entire year, which is what I'll do. So I'll do it for an entire year, hit update, and then it's going to load everything. Go to reports, and then go to export table data. And then you want to do it either as a XLS or a CSV file. It doesn't really matter. Export it, and then just copy and paste it into your spreadsheet. Okay. So in my case, let's say I exported it out as a Excel file. It'll look like this, right? And then I'll just press Command A or Control A to select everything, and then copy it. I've hidden the campaign names because this was real data, but okay. So now go to your Google spreadsheet, and then I'm just going to do everything kind of from scratch. Okay, so I'll do a new one. I'll call this one FB Data V2, and then what you're going to do is you're going to paste it like this. I personally like to paste values only because it keeps the format in the correct way. I realize I probably shouldn't do this. Okay. So once you paste it, it basically looks like this. So I'm going to go to paste specials, paste values only. This way it keeps just the default format. If I were to do it the regular way and just paste it in, then it's going to kind of take Excel's format with it, which I don't really like, but that is fine. Okay, so once we have this here, I am going to, let's see, I'm going to paste in my fake campaign names. Like this. Okay, so, okay, that's good enough. That's fine. Okay, so once you do that, I'm going to unformat everything. Once you do that, the next thing you want to do is you want to kind of format it a bit. So let's just click on this one here to highlight everything. Let me zoom in. Go to Format, Text Wrapping, Wrap It, Bold It, View, Freeze, up to current row. So this way it stays on like this. And one thing to notice about this is for many of you guys, purchase conversion value and website purchase conversion value is probably the same. Same with website purchases and on Facebook purchases. This might change in the future, but for now, just keep that in mind, okay? These are basically duplicate columns for now, unless you do a lot of transactions on Facebook. Okay, so export the Facebook ads data, okay? Paste into Google Sheets, we did that. We formatted the Google Sheets, and then now we want to add a helper column. Now, a helper column, let me show you guys. So this is basically going to be a month, okay? And the reason why is because we want to be able to group all this data by the month, right? So if we go to, so it looks basically like this. So let me show you guys what formula this is. It's basically a end of month formula. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to type in equals EO month. So this will basically choose the last day of the month. So I'm going to use the reporting start date. Okay, do this and then do 0 because we want this current month. If you hit 1, it'd be February. And the reason why we want the last day of the month is because when you select this calendar and you select the date range of 31st, it's going to, let's say you had chosen the 1st of the month and you had selected the 31st, it's just going to make it kind of weird, okay? So just basically just use this formula. It's going to work for you. Okay, so let's do EO month start date 0, whoops, 0, and hit enter. Okay, and then we'll just drag this all the way down. I just go like this and I press Command Shift down on a Mac. If you're on a PC, it's Control Shift down, and then when it's all highlighted, it'll bring you to the very bottom, and then I press Command D or Control D on a PC, and then it'll basically just fill all the way down. And you'll notice that these ones aren't going to be correct because it's empty here, right? So the way we fix that is we add a if formula. So at the very beginning, go if a2 equals, if it's blank, then let's leave it empty. Otherwise, let's use this formula again all the way down. Now you'll see that it doesn't have anything here, which is good. And then next thing we want to do is we want to format this to show only the month. So highlight it, go to format, go to number, go to click on where it says this format. You can find it. If it's not here, go to more date and time formats, and then it should just be the month and the year. You'll probably find it and just hit apply. Cool. Okay, and then what I do is I'll highlight this one gray to let everyone know that this is a formula, so not to delete this. If you guys decide to purchase the template, I'll kind of show you guys a few more tricks on how to like foolproof this from not being deleted, because a lot of times you might accidentally delete the entire row. So there's ways to do it so that this can't be deleted. Okay, so now the next step is build the dashboard tables. Okay, so this is basically using the query formula. So if you see the formula, it's basically here, and it's not as bad as it looks. But yeah, this is really simple. I have a lot of videos and courses on how to use the query formula in an advanced way, but this will do for now. So let's create a new tab. We'll call it Dashboard V2. Now the first table we want to create is basically this month table, right? So let me show you guys how to do it. We'll start this at E7. Okay, so let's go to E7. It doesn't really matter where you guys do it, but so let's type in equals. Let me zoom in. Query. And then you want to highlight all of this data from your Facebook data, and then put a comma, then a quote, then let's type in select L. It's probably safer to do it in all caps. You don't have to, but there's certain things that have to be in all caps. And for me, I like the way it looks better. So select L, which is going to be the month. And then we want the sum of the spend, which will be D. Put a comma between every single metric or field, okay? And then sum E, sum F, whoops. Okay, so E, sum F, sum G, and then let's do website purchases, sum H. We don't need on Facebook because it's the same thing. And then we want sum of J. And the reason why we're doing sum is because we're basically telling this formula that we're gonna sum everything by the L, by the month, right? So we're basically adding everything up by the month. Okay, and then just type in after that. Now after the last one, don't put in a comma, just type in where L is not null, exactly like this. It just means where this is not empty. So it's only going to grab rows that have a month in it. And then we're going to type in group by L, which is the month. And I think that's it. Hit enter. Okay, cool. So this is how it looks. Let me see what I did for this. I did transpose it. Now, this is cool, but we want the months to go across the top, right? And the way that you do that inside Google Sheets, if you want to switch the rows and the columns, you basically just add a transpose column formula. So just wrap in transpose. Whoops, I will spell this wrong. Transpose. Cool. So now you'll see here that it basically flipped everything, and we almost have everything that we want. Okay, so what did I have for the next step? Okay. So calculated formulas. Now this goes into what I meant by why we don't want cost per click and things like that to come directly from Facebook, is because we need to build this formula ourselves. If we had taken Facebook's cost per clicks here, it would just give us an average over these days, right? Which is fine too, but we want the exact absolute amount. So the way that we do that is we can actually build these formulas, build these calculated metrics inside of the query formula. So for example, let me kind of write down the, let's see. I had the formulas for them, but it's fine. Okay, so basically we have, let's see, so we have, let's do, we'll call this columns, be more organized. And then we'll call this down here metrics, okay? Or calculated metrics, okay. Now, what we want is click-through rate, which is going to be clicks divided by impressions. And then we want cost per click, which is going to be cost divided by, or I should call it spend. Spend divided by clicks. We want, what else do we want? CTR, cost per purchase, and ROAS. Cost per purchase equals spend divided by purchases. And then we want ROAS, which is going to be revenue divided by spend. I hope that's correct. I always get that wrong. Okay, so these are the four metrics we want, right? So clicks divided by impressions. The way that we do this is, okay, so if you look at this, this is the sum of impressions. Wait, sum of clicks divided by sum of impressions, okay? So sum clicks divided by sum impressions. If you look at this here, clicks is F, impressions is E. So what we do is we do sum, let's say we want it to go after impressions, okay? So after impressions, I'm going to add in a comma and type in sum F divided by sum E. Make sure that there's a comma. The commas are probably the most common reasons for an error, okay? And you'll see here now it basically has that. It's going to have a big long name, and I'll show you guys later how to change this. But this is basically equal to clicks divided by impressions, which is this exact same number, okay? So that's basically how you do it. And let me show you guys kind of a trick to make this formula more organized, okay? Because there's so much going on here. So what I like to do is I like to press Option. So go into right in front of select, press Option and hold down Option and press Enter. This will bring you down a bit, okay? So I basically always want to separate it by each clause. These things are called clauses, the select, the where, and the group. So where, group. This makes it almost like readable to a human. So we're going to select these columns where these, group by this. Okay, let me see how I did it here, if I went even further. Okay, and then sometimes what I'll do is I'll go even further than that to make it even more organized, because all these metrics are really hard to read, okay? So I'm going to hit Option Enter in front of each metric or field. So, because especially when you start doing calculated metrics, it's going to be very confusing to look at. So in this way, you can basically keep track of everything. Okay, so now this is a little bit more manageable, right? We're saying select all of these, cool. So, whoops. The next thing we want now is spend versus clicks, cost per click. So the way we do that is that's going to be after, let's see. So one thing I really like to do, which helps a lot, honestly, is knowing which columns are which letters, okay? So let's do this. Let's paste it here, and then this is D. So it goes D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Okay, so, and then we don't need on Facebook purchases. We don't need I or K because we're not using those, okay? So we're using this. So these are the columns that we have. Let's see, I'm going to copy this. And then this is really great to work with. And then go to the dashboard. And I'll just paste this here. I'll copy it again, explain why. Paste special, paste transposed. So that basically flips everything. So now I can basically quickly know which columns mean what, right? So as I'm writing the formula, it won't be so hard. So it'd be a good idea to kind of just have this on a notepad somewhere just to look at. So I'm going to put it on my other screen. Okay, so the next thing that we want is we want the cost per click, right? And I want this to go after clicks, which is column F based on this link clicks. So now I'm going to go after the comma. I'll press Option Enter. Now cost per click is going to be spend divided by clicks, which would be D divided by F. Okay, so sum D divided by sum F and then comma. I'm just going to copy this so it's a bit easier. Afterwards now I want cost per purchase, which is going to be website purchases after H. So I'm going to do this. Sum D divided by sum H, and then ROAS is going to be sum, I think it's revenue divided by sum D. Okay, like I said, I always get this wrong, so ROAS formula. Yep, revenue divided by amount spent. Cool. All right, so now we basically have everything. The next step would be, okay, building dashboard tables, calculated formulas. So the next step was probably to format this data so it actually looks kind of good. So we can just click on this row here and we can make this into a dollar thing, dollar sign. And probably for this, you don't need to have the decimals. I don't know how exactly you want it to be, but that's up to you. For these numbers like impressions, this format is cool, but it's not really easy to read. So I like to go to format number, and it basically adds a comma or decimal to it. And I'll get rid of all of the decimals. The quotient, this is, it's going to be say something weird, but this is basically click-through rate, which is a percentage, like that. Link clicks, I want to make it a number so it's easier to read. Get rid of the decimal points. This one is going to be cost per click, so let's make it a dollar sign. Purchases, depending on how many data sets you have. I will do this. Purchases. Okay, so you see here, I accidentally put in website purchases and purchases. Okay, so I want to get rid of one of them. So website purchases is going to be H. So let me get rid of H. So just go into your formula, delete H, and then I'll change this one to G because I think G is also purchases. Yeah, cool. Amount spend, quotient, link clicks, amount spend, purchases. This one is going to be cost per purchase. So let's make this a dollar sign. Purchases conversion value is basically revenue. So let's do this. And then the ROAS should just be a number. Cool, perfect. So yeah, this looks pretty good for the first table. I'll show you guys later how to label this using the label clause, how to change these names. And then maybe you want to add in a Spark. Actually, I'll show you guys how to do this part now. Okay, so for labeling, right, you basically want to relabel and name every metric because what it does by default is it shows you the way that it was aggregated and then all the metric full names, right? Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. It's probably a good idea once you go here to change the column names, right? So what you'll do is once you get the ads data and you download it, so let's say I downloaded it from January 1st all the way to December 31st, right? So the next date I'm going to download it is going to be from, I'm going to change this to January 1st of 2021, and then maybe you do this once a week or something, right? So select from here till let's say the Thursday or something. It depends how you want to do it. Hit update, you'd export the data, and then just go down to the very bottom and then paste it directly underneath it, okay? And make sure you don't paste over this. Again, if you guys want kind of more advanced tricks on how to manage this dashboard, feel free to purchase the template in the description below. it's going to come with this exact template for you to work with, and you can just kind of modify it for what you need. Cool. So what you'll do is you'll paste in the data underneath, right? So once that's set, you basically don't need what Facebook calls the column, and you can just kind of shorten it for what you want. So for example, right now, if I go to the dashboard, it says some amount spent, right? But if I change this to just spend, it's just going to say some spend. It makes it look a little bit easier. We can just change this to clicks as long as you know that it's link clicks. And then we can just change this to purchases. And then we can change purchases conversion value to revenue. If you go here, it's going to kind of change the names to a little bit shorter, okay? But we still need to kind of get rid of the sum and then change these to the correct names. And the way that you do that is using the label clause, okay? And the label clause goes at the very end. So I'm gonna hit Option, Enter, Label. Let me give you an example of how it works. Sum D would be spend, right? So label sum parentheses D, type it exactly how you see it. Now, put in a space and then put in 2 small little brackets, okay? And then we'll type in spend. Now it's going to change that entire thing to spend. So that's basically how you do it. And you would do it, and you would basically add in a comma. And then the next one would be this calculated metric. So it has to be exactly the same. Copy it to make it easier. Paste it, and then 2 things. And then this one is called CTR. Whoops. Yeah, I forgot to change the name of the impressions. Okay, so so this is how it looks, right? And it gets pretty messy. So let me show you guys a better way I like to do it. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll take everything, press enter, highlight all of the metrics, okay? Except for the L, because it's basically just month, it doesn't really matter. So copy it, go to where it says L, press Option, enter. I do it twice, just so I get rid of this. Get a new line for this quotation marks, and I'll paste it in. And then now, after every single one, I'm just going to go, and before the comma, I'll just go in and add in these little brackets. These are really great query formula tricks, by the way. So I wish I had someone to teach me this when I was learning it, because I spent hours like going through this stuff. But these are nice little shortcuts. Okay, so we'll call the first one, we'll call it spend. Now it's kind of hard to see, so it's probably better to have like 2 screens up or something, or have a good memory. Impressions. And the name goes into the little brackets, okay, or whatever they're called, apostrophes. The next one would be clicks. This one I think was CPC, cost per click. I think this one was purchases. I think this one was cost per purchase. This one was revenue. And then this one is OS. Whoops, see I messed up. Cool, this is fine though. Sum, I was expecting. Okay, whoops. I forgot to add in a label. So group by L, it needs to have a label like this. Perfect. Okay, cool. So it's got this now. Now let's add in the Sparkline total average. So I like to add in, this is just completely optional, but it's nice to have, makes it look a bit cooler. Average, and then total. Okay, so Sparkline is pretty simple. It's just equal Sparkline. And then just highlight everything over. Oh, you know what? It's probably a good idea to limit this, by the way. So if you see here, I did a limit. Limit comes before the label. There's specific orders that these clauses can go in, okay? So let me add in the limit clause, and I'll explain to you what that means. It goes before label. I'm going to do limit 12. So basically the max number of months it'll show is 12 if I change it. And the reason for that is just because I used to have my dashboards go all the way around, like to the very end, but it kind of messes up the look of it, and it's just not as neat. And it's not the worst thing to restrict what the user can do, you know? So let's say I chose 6, limit 6. It's only going to show the first 6. Okay, so, but I'm going to make it 12. So no matter what date range I select, it's only going to show the first 12 months of that date range. And that's something that they should know, but if not, you know, whatever. And then bring this down. Again, you should always wrap your formulas in an if error, so that it doesn't have like an ugly error if there's no data here. But That's for the future. And then for the average, I think it's just the average formula. And then drag this down like this. And then for totals, we'll just do sums. And then we will do the same thing. Okay, you can just like do this and then like double click on here and it'll do the same thing. Okay, now a couple of these though don't really make sense to have the sum, right? First of all, ROAS should be a number. Some people like to use it as a dollar, but it's basically you get 5 outputs per $1, $5. Okay, so the cost per purchase. Okay, so these calculated metrics don't really make sense to sum it up, right? So it's good to have the average, of each month. Click-through rate should be a percentage. But for the totals, what we really want is like the total amount. So the way that we do that is pretty intuitive, but you basically just go equals clicks divided by impressions. This should be a number as well. So we're basically just saying, this should be, so we can copy the format of one, put it to the other. Same with this one. And we want a couple more. Okay. So we're basically just taking the total of clicks divided by total impressions. Same with this. We want the total spend divided by total clicks. This way it gives us an accurate picture. Cost per purchase, same thing, equals spend divided by purchases. And then let's give it a couple more decimal points. Revenue is correct. ROAS should be the total revenue divided by the spend. Cool. Now you have a total and average, okay? So the next step now is adding in a chart. Okay, so if you see here, there's a chart here, and we want to add that in as well. So the way you do that is you basically just highlight all of your data, but don't highlight all of this stuff, okay? Just highlight just this data. Click here to get the charts. Let's have this chart. Let me just move my face. Okay, so for the chart, okay, let's drag it out. Let's double click back into it. And chart style, setup. Okay, so the setup, we want probably a line chart. You can choose whatever you want, but I think line chart's probably best for this. Couple settings, okay, under setup. Let's use row 7 as a header. This is row 7. We want this to be our headers. We want column E to be our labels. And then you'll see here, it looks a bit off. So just click on switch and then go to aggregate. Okay, so now it's going to split up by month. Now, obviously, we don't want every metric on here because it's not going to really do its job. Just pick whatever you want to do. The numbers should kind of relate to each other. So for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to do spend, the revenue, and the ROAS. And you see the ROAS doesn't show, right? Because it's too, these numbers is too small compared to the other one. So I'm gonna go to customize series and then apply to the ROAS. I'm gonna switch this one to the right axis. So this way we can kind of see a little bit how it's trending, okay? And you can add a title to it if you want. If you go to customize, you can chart axis and titles. We can go monthly trends or something, whatever you want to call it is fine. We can center it, things like that. But yeah, it's up to you. I'm gonna delete it for now. Okay, so let's just move this chart over here. Maybe make it a bit wider. And then let's make it a bit shorter, like this. Cool. And again, if you guys want more kind of advanced chart tricks, download the template, and then there'll be extra videos in there for you guys. Cost per click. Cool. Let's unbolt this stuff. Okay. Let's give this a couple more decimal points. Cool. So this is it. And then let's go to add a chart. We did this. Well, the next thing you want to do is a color scale. Color scales are great for just spot checking. So let's highlight these one row at a time. You have to do this one row at a time, which is kind of annoying. Conditional formatting, color scale. Let's do the lowest will be white. You can do it however you want to do it. If you want it to be red, like this, and then you basically have to kind of go through and change the range for each one. This gets a bit tricky, okay? So make sure that you guys do it like one row at a time. I'd probably just kind of keep re-highlighting it, add another rule, color scale, like this, okay? And you basically want to do that all the way through. I won't do it in this video, but you basically get the idea. Okay, so now let me close this, move myself back down. Okay, so now the next thing is add a chart, color scale, and then formatting. Okay, so if you look at this dashboard is basically the same as this one, except for a few things. We want to do a top campaigns, okay? So the way that we do that is we go here, equals query, Facebook data. So comma, quotation marks, let me zoom in. It's down here if you guys can see it. So we're gonna select by campaign. So let's do it by C. And then sum, we just want the spend. Let's say we want purchases, some revenue, and let's say we want the ROAS, which would be sum J divided by sum D, which is spend. Put where C is not null, group by C, just like that, okay? And cool. And then we can also add in, okay, let me make it an easier way to read. Group by C. And then now we want to sort it by, let's sort it by revenue. Order, put order by, the revenue is some H, and then we want it descending. Okay, so it's either ASC or DSC. If you do nothing, then it's just going to be ascending. But if you want descending, to add in DSC exactly like that. Let's put revenue first. Okay, let's move it first. So I'm going to copy some J, select here. Cool. So this way it makes more sense why it's sorted this way. Oh, and then let's limit this to 10. So right now there is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's just, there's a lot more than 10. So let's limit this to 10. Limit 10. So basically the top 10 by revenue. And then you guys know how to label it by now. So you can just relabel all this so it doesn't show the sum. For now, let me clip. Actually, let me wrap it. And then these two are dollar amounts. Let's get rid of the decimals here. This one is going to be, let's just do it like this. This is basically the ROAS, okay? I know it looks all weird. And then what we want to do is want to add in a chart for this as well. So let's add in a chart. Let's make it a bar chart going this way. Let's just do it only by revenue. Okay. And chart title, top 10 campaigns or something like that, by revenue. Okay, so make it look like this. Then another thing you probably want to get rid of is going to be the grid lines. Let's go to view grid lines. Makes it look a bit cleaner. Okay, cool. So we have this. So the last thing that you guys need to get this to really work is to have it connect to the date range, and then have this part connect to an actual campaign, so that when I change it, if you see here, so this one's connected, then it actually updates to the correct campaign and only shows this campaign data. Right. So let me go to my new dashboard where I'm fixing some things here. And okay, so the first thing we'll do is let's just connect. Okay, so let's build out this bottom one. Okay, so it's basically the exact same thing. So I'm going to take this down here, and then I'll put it over here. And the first thing we need to do is obviously add a place where they can select the drop downs. And then here's like a little trick for you guys, okay? So let's say I want to copy this entire format. I'm just gonna highlight all of it, go to format, paint format. Let me zoom in. Paint format, and then I'm going to click here, and then it's gonna basically format everything correctly. Okay, so let's have a spot. Let's say we have a spot that says select campaign here, and then we want to add a drop-down menu for it. So let's put in a drop-down menu, right-click it, and go to data validation. Click, make sure it stays on list from range. Click select data range, and then go to Facebook data. And then let's just highlight all of these campaigns. Now there's a better way to kind of do this. It's a little bit more complicated where we can get it to sort alphabetically. And I'll show you guys, like these are all going to be bonus videos inside the template. So just, but for now, this will basically do. And this will have a campaign here. It's not in order, but for now it's fine. Select a campaign, right? And you see nothing happens because we need to adjust this formula. And the way we do that is under the where clause. So the way that it's formatted is really easy to find it. So just go to after where it says where L is not null, type in and, let's see. So the campaign is column C, okay? So, whoops. So let's go to it and put and C equals. This cell where this drop-down menu is E49, okay? So we're gonna type in basically E49, except that it's not gonna work if we do it just this way. Because in the formula, if we wanna reference, in the query formula, if you wanna reference a cell, you need to add in 3 quotation marks and signed on both sides, like that. Now, if you see here, now if I hit this drop down, it's going to change it and only show certain campaigns, which is really cool. So this is a way you can add in drop down menus inside your query formula. This is a pretty advanced trick, so it took me a while to learn, but this is, yeah, it's pretty useful. Now the next thing now is for the dates to connect, okay? So let's say now we want to add in a start date, end date. So let's call it start date, end date, and then we're gonna highlight both of these cells, go to data validation, oops, okay, highlight data validation, and let's select let's make it date, and then just hit save. So this way, if we click on it, there's going to be a calendar, okay? So the way we do this is, it's a little bit trickier. I basically just have something copied and pasted on a helper, like a cheat sheet. If you guys want that cheat sheet, I might link it below, but for now, this is what it looks like, okay? So you basically have to add in this piece of text. This is basically it. I'm gonna copy it here for now. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna use the reporting start date, I think is the best way. I'm not sure if it's better to use reporting start date or the month, because the month is gonna be the last of the day. Let's just use reporting start date for now. I could be wrong on it, but it's probably better actually. Yeah, let's use reporting start date. Okay, so that's going to be column A. Okay, so in the formula now, let's go to the formula, and then where the where clause is, we're going to type in and A, and then I'm going to paste in that date. Okay, wait, hold on. So this is a bit confusing. Where A is greater or equal to space that date, and then I'm going to copy this. It's basically 3 ampersigns and text formula, parentheses, the date where the start date is, which is going to be P2. So let's change it to P2, and then comma, date, quotation marks, year, month, date, and then closed. Okay, so it's a little bit confusing. It's easier if you have this kind of like on a cheat sheet or something. I'm definitely going to put it in my template to have the link to the cheat sheet. I might put it in the description. I'm not sure yet. But you can easily just kind of copy this text, so it's the same thing. And then after that, I'm going to copy it again. I'm going to put and A is less than or equal to the end date, which is going to be in P3. Okay, boom. Okay, so now if you look at it, I can delete this now. If you look at it, okay, so obviously there's not going to be anything there because this date range is just 1 day. But if we change this date range, let me zoom out. Okay, so if I change this date range to, let's say we only want to see January. Okay, well that's not, okay, I'm sorry. This is 2021, I think is the reason why. Okay, yeah, so this is 2020 data. So let me change this date to 20 and 20. Oh, still doesn't work. 20, okay, let me just check this quickly. Where A is greater than the date, and then A is less than the date. A is reporting starts. So this is the fun stuff with Google Sheets. This type of stuff does happen a lot. Let me figure out the error. So where L is not null. Okay, let me use the L. Let me see what L, if L is correct. And L is greater and L is less. Cut. Okay, resume. Okay, wait, not resume yet. Okay, now the next thing you want to do is you want to connect this to like a date range, right? So we're able to actually have a date range selector. So let's put like a start date, and then an end date over here. And then let's highlight both of these cells. Let's go to data validation, right click data validation, and then change it to date and then hit save. This way, when you click on it, a calendar pops up, okay? And so what you want to do is go into the formula and go to the where clause again. Now this one, it's a little bit more complicated, or it seems complicated at first, but there's basically a piece of text that I saved that you need to put in. So this is basically what it looks like, okay? Now I'm gonna have a cheat sheet for sure. I'm gonna put it in the template, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna put it in the description, but either way, you can just copy this. It's not that difficult. So go into the where clause. I have it copied, by the way, and type in, okay, quickly, we're going to use the reporting start date, okay? So that's going to be column A. So that's going to be the date that we're using. So go back into it, and then we're going to type in where L is not null, add in an and A is greater or equal to this start date, right? So do greater equal to sign, and then paste in this formula. But it's going to have a, let's change the cell reference to cell P2. Now what this is basically saying is where this is the accepted date format. So you could call it a date, 3 quotation marks, ampersand sign, text, formula, P2, and then this date format, and then close it out, okay? And then let's hit enter for now, okay? Now let's say we change this date now to like April 1st. Well, something happened. Is greater or equal to, okay, let me add in the other part real quick. Is greater or equal to, and A is less than. So I'm basically just adding an and then pasting the entire thing again, and then I'm going to use P3 now. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, wait, I'm sorry, before I do that, okay, so this is the original thing I typed in, okay? I typed in where L is not null and A is greater and equal to date, okay? The reason why nothing happened was because this date is 2021 and all the dates here are 2020. So I should change this to a 2020 and data should pop up. Now, if you'll see here, it's only gonna show data from April on, okay? So if I change this to May 1st, it's only going to show data past May 1st. And I guess there's no May data in here, which is kind of weird, but yeah, for some reason I skipped May, or they skipped May in the campaign data. But if I change this to, let's say, July, same thing, it's only going to show July data. Okay, now let's add in the end date. So basically go in there and copy everything from the and then go to the end of it and hit and again. We're going to change this sign to a less than, and we're going to change this to a P3, right? And now there needs to be a date in there, otherwise it's going to mess up. Okay, so now it's only going to show data in the entire dashboard from July to September 30th, right? So this is basically what we want, and this is basically how you build this entire formula. Once you get this down and this down, that's basically everything. So this is like kind of like the finished full version of the dashboard. I'm not going to obviously go through all of that. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions, make sure to leave it in the comments below. If you guys have any general questions about spreadsheets, Google Sheets specifically, Facebook ads, reporting, things like that, let me know. Like I said, if you don't want to go through spend all the time building this entire dashboard, I'm going to include this exact template that has everything already built, and you just need to go in there and paste in your data exactly like this. And it's going to include a bunch of videos to kind of show you how to modify and kind of make things like look a bit better and more professional, such as like how to do theme settings to make things look kind of coherent, how to add more graphs, things like that. Cool. If you guys like this video, make sure to like and subscribe if you guys want to see more videos like this.